Hey moms, it's Amber from the No More Angry Mob group. I wanted to take a minute to address the answers that you gave me to my question earlier today when I asked what is the one word that comes to mind to describe your physical reaction when you are angry. Many of you said things like yell. Many of you said things like eyes bulging, that you get hot, that your blood boils, that you start breathing faster, that you're tense, that your body is clenched. There are a lot of very, very strong physical reactions to our thinking when we get angry. And I want to address something for you. I think that one of the keys for all of us in dealing with our anger is that we're trying to get rid of our anger. We're trying to be angry in a more righteous way, and we don't want to harm our kids or taint our household or sin in our anger. And so we keep struggling, like, how do I get rid of this anger? And I want to address one aspect of our anger that I think will give you a lot of freedom. And so I don't have a wrench with me today. I only have this, but I want you to pretend that this is a wrench. And I want to throw a wrench in your thinking about this physical response and your emotional response to anger when something makes you super angry, or even just a minor offense that makes you angry. I want you to start thinking about it differently. So here's what I mean. I want you to take a look. You can look this up for yourself in the book of Genesis, chapter 3, verses 14 and 15. It says, this is in response to Satan. After Adam and Eve have fallen in the garden, they've sinned against God and suffered their consequences for sinning. At this point, God speaks to Satan, and he says, "And the Lord God said to the serpent, because you have done this, you are cursed above all domestic animals," or all animals, "and above every living thing of the field," these are like wild things, "upon your belly you shall go, and you shall eat dust all the days of your life. And I will put enmity between you and the woman, and between your offspring and her offspring. He will bruise and tread your head underfoot, and you will lie in wait and only bruise his heel." Okay, so there's a couple things that I want you to notice, and that is that God's great punishment to Satan in this moment for tempting Adam and Eve and their fall is that he will put enmity between them. And enmity is a very strong word, and it basically means a violent hostility, or the strongest kind of hatred. So God naturally instilled in us a hatred towards what is evil. And we naturally feel that, don't we? We see the horrific things that go on around us in the world today, and it makes us angry. And sometimes we question, how could a good God allow that? When instead we misplace our anger, and we don't put it where it's due, which is towards our enemy, Satan. So here's how this relates to us in a practical way in our homes. We know that our kids often are immature, and sometimes our anger absolutely is a lack of our own self-control, not handling it well, so on and so forth. And there's some practical things we can do to get a grip on that, and we will continue to work on those things. But there are times also when our kids genuinely sin. They genuinely do the wrong thing, and they make the wrong choice. And we get angry. And what we tend to do instead is we yell at them. We get angry at them. Our body responds towards them. They get afraid of us because they see our faces are angry, so on and so forth. When Jesus saw that Lazarus had died, he had this guttural, moaning and weeping and crying. And really the word there that they're talking about is that Jesus was really feeling enmity towards Satan. He was grieving that death had caused this loss, because it's not what his plan was for mankind. And so he's placing that anger, that deep response, that grief in the right place. The witnesses said, see how they loved him. They saw Jesus' response. What really he was responding to was this grief and this anger, righteous anger towards Satan for this loss of his friend and for death. And the people interpreted that as love, that he loved Lazarus. So my point to you is that moms, when you get really, really angry, for justifiable reasons, perhaps, you need to redirect your anger. You need to stop placing it towards your children, and you need to start putting it towards the enemy, who is the one who is causing us to sin, who has the root of sin, and who is truly evil. So if you could look at your child that lies to you or is physically violent towards your younger sibling, their younger sibling, and you can start thinking about it, man, I hate that sin. I hate that sin. And I'm so angry towards Satan. I'm feeling that enmity, which is really a gift that God's given us in a sense, to recognize this is our enemy. And this is why I'm in this battle and in this war, is to win my children back for Christ by simply being a model. Ultimately, that has to be their own path. But you understand what I'm saying is that we have to place our anger on the right person. And that's Satan and the evil that he does. It's not our children. So when our children mess up and they sin, our response really should be compassion and love for them, because we're supposed to have unconditional love even for our enemies. Okay? So if our children see us love them like, oh man, compassion, they're struggling with sin. You know, son, daughter, I love you in this moment, but I hate this sin that's happening right now of lying. And it's not okay for you to lie to me, and here's why. You know, and to go to them in gentleness and with compassion, but to not have to feel like we have to get rid of that anger, because we can't. We're supposed to have that anger, but we need to direct it where it's due. It's due to Satan. It does sort of sum up in that phrase, you know, hate the sin, love the sinner. It's sort of what we're talking about here. And I want us to really take that to a new level in our homes in the day-to-day life with our kids. Exercise that enmity. Man, when you see sin, grieve over it. Grieve over it in your own life. But don't then also belittle yourself. A lot of you said, I feel like a failure. You know, I yelled at them. Okay, so you screwed up, all right? Now, redirect that anger towards Satan. You know, I hate that he is continuing to affront me with this temptation. So I'm going to resist him, because he will flee from me when I resist him. But I'm also not going to start putting myself down as a mom, because I'm wonderfully made. I am precious in Jesus' sight. His thoughts about me outnumber the grains of sand. I am a sinner. I'm saved by grace. And I am perfectly and wonderfully made. This isn't about me putting myself down and feeling all that failure. I can feel a sense of conviction and then thank the Lord for saving me and loving me anyway, and then redirect my anger towards Satan and not myself as well. So I hope that will just help you not wrestle anymore with trying to get rid of your anger, but to redirect it so that then your body language and your words are free to show compassion and the fruit of the Spirit, and to point your children to Christ instead of causing them to be afraid and experience the brunt of your anger, because it's not theirs to bear. So I hope that this makes sense. I hope that something resonated with you. Would you do me a favor and respond and let me know, is this kind of a new way of thinking for you? Does this give you freedom to know that you can still forgive others and love others and still feel a sense of grief and hurt and pain and hatred for what happened? That's not unforgiveness. That's enmity that's supposed to be directed towards your enemy, Satan. Okay? Moms, I love you. I hope this helped some of you and resonated. I'd love to talk more about it, but I'm trying to keep it short. But I hope that, you know, God is working in your heart and in your life. Don't give up. Hang in there. Press on, sisters. It's all good.